Hey everybody, got some emails regarding if I could show some other techniques of taking a traditional photograph and converting it into art. Now, I've showed this to other photographers, and some are calling this multiple exposure art using textures and overlays. So in other words, I'm going to start with something like this right here and end up with something that looks like this. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. All right, today's program is really put together by you people sending me emails at my personal private email address, which is right here at the bottom of the screen at stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes. Please feel free to make suggestions on what you would like to see, in the near future. On this channel. Okay, so the request was, can we get exposed to other techniques in doing something creatively with our photography? So here's what I want to talk about before I jump into the program. And that is this, what I'm going to share with you could work on any type of photography. If it's a portrait, it will work. In fact, let me show you some images here in a couple minutes, but it could be street photography, whatever your genre is. We could use some creative techniques. So let's take a look at some examples here, and then I'm going to dive in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to freely use my creative vision. You're going to see me maybe make mistakes, change my mind. I just want you to get exposed to my creative thinking and process. It doesn't mean you've got to do exactly what I do, but if I can share 2 or 3 techniques and ideas that spark an interest for you, you should add your own personality and touch to your projects. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at a few examples I did, and then let's dive into actually creating something from scratch. Let's do it. Okay, here's some quick examples I did. Some people like to call this architectural photography. It could actually be called urban photography. So I did this technique right here. We can do this with landscape photography, portraits, and also street photography and other genres. But the point is that it's up to us to go in there and put our own personality into our project. So let's get started with a project that I'm going to start from scratch, and let's see what happens. Okay, jumping into Photoshop here. Again, I'm just going to double click on my workspace to get the open dialog box. You would just navigate to your folder where you're going to work on your project. Now, at the end of this video, I'll share with you where you can go get some, say, free overlays and textures, and even images if you want, if you don't have an image you want to work with for free. But let's hold off on that for right now, and let's jump into this project. Now, what I did was I'm going to work with this photograph here. It's a still life. And I already picked some textures, a couple of them in overlays. I might use them all. I might not. We'll just see what happens. So I'm going to select all of these, click on Open, and let's get organized here in Photoshop. As this opens up, let me find where the image is at. Still life right there. So I'm going to do this just to keep my head organized a bit. I'm going to click and drag on the tab to the far left. So I have an overlay 1 there, overlay 2 there, texture 1 and texture 2. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you again, I would like you to, when this is finished, try to do exactly what I did. Obviously, you're going to have different textures and overlays, but try the concept first, just to get an idea how this all works. Then I want you to think about going back and redoing it, but putting in your own flavor and touch into it and personality, because your vision or artistic vision is going to be different than mine. So I don't want you to agree with everything I'm doing here. So one of the things I'm going to do that is totally optional is I'm going to duplicate this layer 2 times by just doing Control J, and that would be Command J on a Mac. And again, this is optional, but this is why some photographers that I meet with and talk to, they go, oh, that's like a multiple exposure technique. Yeah, I guess it could be. I mean, there's cameras that we can do multiple exposures in it. Some can do it, some can't, but we're doing this in our editing software. And again, what I'm going to do here should work in Affinity Photo and any software that actually supports, say, layers and blending modes and the different, say, opacities and even masking if possible. And that's a lot of programs out there. But again, I'm using Photoshop because I find that that's what most people are using. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off the very first layer there, come down to this one, and I'm going to pull the opacity down. I'm just going to scrub to the left to about 50%, just close to that. This will make sense in a minute. Control T or Command T on a Mac to activate the free transform tool. And what I'm going to do is go to the upper right-hand corner here, and I'm just going to click and drag and expand that out. Now, how far you go is totally up to you. I mean, this is your artistic interpretation as to what's going on. And I'm just going to choose Enter on the keyboard or just select the layer, and that completes that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with blending modes here to see what I could... First of all, let me do this. I'm going to push... I'm just curious. I'm going to push that 100%, and then I'm going to go to the blending modes to play with this. I'm leaning towards screen right there, but I might pull the opacity down a bit. I don't want it to be intense. And again, that's, personal taste, right? Our artistic interpretation. It's not right or wrong. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to activate the very top layer. I'm going to push that back to close to 50% so I can do Control T, Command T on a Mac. And I'm going to go to the opposite corner. Over here, click and drag that up. And maybe down here also in the lower left-hand corner. Again, there's no right or wrong on this. And then Enter on the keyboard. And let's take a look at some blending modes. I think I did screen before. So I'm going to do screen again. But I think that's a little bit too intense. I'm going to pull the opacity down to maybe about right there. Okay, now everything I did right here, I just need to point out, this is totally optional. By the way, if you're going to learn anything here, hopefully you are, if you could do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. Plus, if you'd like to support the channel, I'd like to thank everybody that's been going to buymeacoffee.com/Stephen Photo Artist. You'll see the link here at the bottom of the screen, but also it'll be in the show notes for you. So I really appreciate the ones that have been doing that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these three layers, consolidate them all into one by doing a visible stamp layer. And I've talked about this and done this many times in the past. On a PC, it's Shift-Control-Alt-E like an Edward. That should be Shift-Command-Option-E on a Mac. And what it did was consolidated all the visible layers into one right here. These right here I could delete if I want. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to keep them right there for right now. And with that done, I'm going to add one of the textures. So I'm just going to start with this one. And I'm just going to click and drag it into the photograph. And Control T, Command T on a Mac. And I'm just going to make sure it fits. Come down here in the corner. I'm going to hold the Shift key down as I click and drag, so I can resize it and make it fit in there. And then I'll just play with the blending modes here. And there's darken. Color burn looks pretty cool. I think it's too intense, but I would push that down. Again, all this is, again, personal preference. It's your artistic interpretation. Overlay, soft light overlay. I'm going to go with overlay, but I'm going to push that down just a little bit in opacity. Want that to be a little bit stronger than soft light. So again, artistic interpretation here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is, and again, you could keep building on this. You could duplicate this texture and do a different blending mode and play with the opacity. I'm going to go grab this other texture. This guy actually has some shapes on it too. So I found that looked pretty interesting. So I'm going to click and drag and use that again. And again, Control T, Command T on a Mac. Let's resize that. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down so I can make that fit inside. And then I'm going to play with blending modes here. Color burn is a little bit too intense. Well, of course, I could pull the opacity down on that, but okay, I'm sort of liking overlay. I'm going to go with overlay right there. And again, you could pull the opacity down if you wish. Again, based on your interpretation, I sort of like that. And you know what I like to do? This rectangle you see here, I like it to cover the flowers and this coffee cup over here. So what I'm going to do is Control-T, Command-T on a Mac. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, come up here, click and drag, and move that up a bit. Make this smaller so we can see this. So I want it to cover the top of the flowers right there, sort of like framing that in. And I'm going to go on the left side here and do the same thing just to come to the, about there by the edge of that coffee cup right there. And again, just enter on the keyboard to accept that. Okay, so that's what I have so far, like that. And let's take a look at the next thing, which is an overlay. And I know that because there's a white background, I'm going to be limited on this. When I drop that in, Control-T, Command-T on a Mac again, just to make this fit. I'm going to hold the Shift key as I come down here to the far corner in the lower right-hand corner. Make that snap in there. And I'm going to have to use the multiply blending mode. It tends to, you can see a little bit more intense there with color burn, but I like multiply, gets rid of that white really well. And if I want to pull the opacity down, maybe I don't want that lettering to be that intense. Maybe I'll drop that to about 60%. So we can see that. Maybe a little bit more. I'm changing my mind. Sorry about that. Again, no right or wrong on this. And then remember, stay to the end because I'm going to share with you where you can get some textures and overlays for free. And then let's go to the next one, overlay right there. And let's click and drag and drop that in again. And again, I'm just going to move that. Let's do Control-T. Command-T on a Mac again, and let's just resize that. I don't know if I want to use all of it or part of it. I'm going to use all of it. What the heck? We're experimenting here. And then go to the drop-down menu and play with the different blending modes. Let's see what that gives me. Not really, if I go to overlay, and let's push this back, maybe a little bit more down, turning it on and off. You know, I don't know if I like that. And again, this goes to our artistic interpretation as to, you know, do we like that or not? So, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna leave it off for right now. So I could change my mind. So if I save this, I'll save it with that in case I change my mind, like tomorrow or next day. I can reactivate that and play with different opacities and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna grab my signature here out of the library. So let's do that. Click and drag that over there. I would just resize that and drop that into a certain spot. Just using the move tool here. Enter in the keyboard, and there is our piece of artwork. Now I'm going to share with you where you can go find some textures and overlays, but I'm going to hold, let's see, click on this and let's hold the Alt key down option on a Mac. So that's what I started with, and that's what I ended up with. Again, so hopefully, again, if you're learning anything, please like the video, subscribe. If you have not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. Okay, so again, this is, again, just playing around based on our vision. We can do this with any kind of photography we'd like to do. And now let's pause for a second and let's jump into where can I find some free stuff that I could use on my images to do some things like this. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, to help you get started without spending any money, and that is, let's get some free stuff to practice with before you maybe go out to buy, say, textures and overlays out there. So if you are a subscriber to Adobe Photoshop, you should be able to go to Adobe Stock right here, and it is stock.adobe.com. And when you get there, just make sure that you go to like the photo section, because obviously that's what we're working with. Come down over here where it says free, and then just go in there and type in textures. Let me just do that. Or overlays, but we're going to take a look at textures and enter, and then you'll see all the different textures as I scroll down here. All of this stuff is free. provided you are subscribing to Adobe Photoshop. If you are not an Adobe Photoshop user, then a very popular site, not limited to this site, but it is called unsplash.com. And again, you just want to go to the photo area, and I just typed in the word texture right here in the upper left-hand corner, and you'll see that there is a bunch of different textures that you can get and download, again, for free. So a couple of resources for you. Definitely dive in and try this technique and be creative with your photography. Everybody does something different. You might be a landscape photographer. This will work. If you're a still life, portrait, architectural, it doesn't matter. Whatever you like to photograph, let's try converting that special image you have into art by playing around with the techniques I just shared with you. So what I want to get to is my ending, and that is, let's literally think creatively out of the box. Until next time, see ya.